Hey guys, I got James Helm back in the building for part two. Part one, we talked about all about biz dev, marketing, getting those leads, but we're going to talk about sales. Yes, I said it, not intake. We're talking sales, baby. But before we get started, James, I want to talk just a little bit about the impact of the type of leads that you receive because I think it's a good segue. So, what have you discovered and evaluated in the different types of leads that you receive? Maybe brand versus direct response. Talk to me about that.
First, I got to touch on the sales instead of intake question. So, we have a leadership team. We follow EOS at Top Dog Law. And I've been trying to rename our intake department the sales department. And some of the other leaders have pushed back. But the reason why I think the naming is so important is intake signifies, oh, we're just collecting information, right? We're just writing things down. Whereas sales is we're closing, we're signing contracts. It's a mentality, the psychology of it is different. And I think more law firms over time, I'm hoping my own is included if I can convince our leadership team, will think of it as sales because that's the position it is. And as you talked about, there's nothing more important than the type of lead and how that relates to sales. So one thing that we've learned over time is that the most high intent customers are people that have seen your brand advertising. They're picking up the phone. They're calling you about their case. In terms of a responsiveness rate, those tend to be the most responsive leads. Our agents aren't having to chase them all over the place. Usually, if they call at our office, they're pretty high intent. You can compare that to form submissions or on the total other side of the spectrum, lead gen leads, where they may have filled out a form on Facebook, but they haven't taken that step of actually picking up the phone. And what we've learned is those are much lower intent. The responsiveness is a lot lower, and there's a lot more unresponsive leads. And one of the things that I think is super interesting as we kind of segue into the call center side of things is lead gen can be profitable, but it takes a ton more work from your call center because you might have a conversion rate of 8 or 10%, meaning 1 out of 10 leads are converting into signed cases as opposed to 1 of 3 or 1 of 4. So the question becomes, as a law firm, do you have the manpower to do lead gen? Because you have to have the people in the seats to chase these leads down.
And that leads right into this, right? Your firm gets thousands of calls per month, a ton of calls, and you historically have used an outsourced solution, and you know you went that approach first, right? Hey, they already have the processes, the tech, so talk to me about first your experience, and you can name or not name the outsourced solution you use, and kind of your experience with that and why maybe it was good to a certain point, and then maybe some of your thoughts about why, hey, maybe I want to bring this in house, or just the thoughts on that.
Sure. So I hate feeling like I'm hypocritical. Like I think everybody does, right? And one of the things that became so hard for me was I was so critical of our partner firms' call centers, but I was using that external solution in house. And the external solution worked for a really long time. And when I say external solution, Call Ruby, Smith AI, all types of different third party call centers that are available. And I would recommend any lawyer who's just getting started with your practice, that's a great idea. If you're putting a number on your website or your Google My Business pin, have that route right to that third party call center. And the reason why that's so good is you're going to get so many solicitations and other types of calls that you don't want to bog down your staff, or even worse, I've had some lawyers I know put their personal number on there. You don't want to do that. It's not efficient. Obviously, we've been in business 5 years. We've scaled into multiple markets. Like you said, we're getting thousands of calls per month. And so it just became really intimidating to be like, I want to do these calls in house, but I can't just start with a couple of agents and expect them to be able to handle this kind of volume. And so for us, what it really came down to was, how do we build out a technology solution that makes sense where we can handle this type of a volume? And then how can we put it together, a process, and go get the people so that when we're ready to launch, we have a realistic shot of even answering our inbound calls. And so we went ahead and hired 28 agents. I can get into why we did that. Full disclosure, we're still figuring it out. We don't know. We've had all types of issues with our technology. We're figuring out our processes, but I think we're in a unique situation in the sense that we were getting such high volumes of leads and had to build a call center, not with 3 or 4 reps. We had to go from 0 to 30 reps, which, is challenging.